Hi everyone, my name is Beside and I am an application engineer for Micrographics. Today we're going to look at how we can manipulate the display in the assembly environment. Now the assembly environment can be manipulated in quite a few different ways, and today we're going to look at components that we can move and rotate using the free move and free rotate tools, how we can suppress constraints and hide the visibility of parts within the assembly environment. Now, assembly displays can control the components as well. Now, one of the reasons why we're going to have a look at movement within the assembly environment is that sometimes, depending on the complexity of your assembly, but selecting different components or selecting references within the assemblies can be challenging, and moving or rotating the components in different ways can assist in selecting the different entities as required or needed. And sometimes you just need to move something out the way. For instance, if you want to if you have a different part that you need to constrain in a different manner, it does happen that some different part might be in the way and you're struggling to get to that specific angle or specific selection as needed. Now, when we manipulate the display, it can come quite in handy. Now, one of the tools that we're going to have a look at is what we would call the free move. So I'm just going to hover over the free move and you can just see what it looks like. So you can find it in the assembly tab and the position panel. Now, this unconstrained move the specific part, and it still keeps the relationship, and you can see the relationship dependencies, and it looks like an elastic band. Now, how we can utilize the free move, for instance, we select the free move, we select the part that we want, so you don't just select it, you click and hold with your mouse button on it, and you can move it out the way. And you'll see there's the elastic band that I spoke about, and there is the relationship, so it still keeps that relationship, and you can see what constraint was used. You can move more than one part as needed or required, and you can see also an elastic band, and it still shows you the constraints and relationships that was formed within the assembly environment. So this is also something that can come quite in handy if you need to select a specific angle or so on, just to get that finer details. Another tool we're going to have a look at is what we would call the free rotate. Now, when we select the free rotate, I can select a part and I'll be able to freely rotate that single part. So I can maybe just have a look at something if needed or required. That would be dependent on the assembly and the parts and why you want to utilize it. But if you need to look at a specific angle, you can use the free rotate and just move that part without rotating the whole assembly. Sometimes when you have assembled the parts, you might not be able to see what's going on at a specific edge or face, depending obviously on how complex your assembly is. And it's quite easy just to reset it. So all you have to do is you can go to your update commands. Now again, depending on how complex your assembly is, you might want to think about the two different updates that's available. So in my quick access toolbar, I've got a local update and a global update. Now this is also dependent on how complex your assembly is. Now the local update will update individual parts within a sub-assembly or single parts where a global will update the entire assembly, including all the sub-assemblies. Now, I know this is a very small part of it's two single parts, and it's a very simple assembly that has been created. So I'm just going to click on the local update, and everything would go back into the original position. Another thing you can do, for instance, if I go to, let's choose that part. Now there's quite a few different constraints. I can go and click suppress on those constraints. So right click, suppress, right click, suppress. As you can see, there's quite a few different constraints that you can suppress. And now I'll be able to, this is a grounded part as well, so just right click and make sure it's not grounded, and then I'll be able to move that part around. As you can see, this slides up and down now. Can move it out the way, but there's still one constraint that is in conjunction with each other. Now you'll see this is a visible constraint, so it's something that you can see. I can right click on it and go to visibility and just switch off the visibility, and that will also hide that specific part. Just going to press Ctrl Z, or I can just go right click and choose suppress, and now this would move on its own. Now you can also move this around and get your conjunction and so on and so needed. And if I go back to just grounding that specific part, I can go and just switch on all the constraints again, and you'll see while I'm unsuppressing all the constraints, you'll see how the parts actually start moving back into position. As you can see, now they're all back into position. Another way, for instance, if we look here, we can see there is two constraints that is visible. So if I click on that, I can go to that constraint and also suppress it there as needed or required. And after you suppressed it, you can just unsuppress it. Another way you can use selection techniques within the assembly, you can simply click on the item and right click and switch off the visibility. Now you will see that the part is no longer there. As you can see also in the browser, it does show that the visibility is off, but when I click on it, you'll see where that item is constrained within the assembly, and you can do and create your selection as needed or required. And then you can just right click simply on it and go back and switch on visibility. And then the last feature, and quite a unique tool that we can also utilize, you can go to that specific part, right click and switch on off enabled. So you'll see if I zoom in, it looks like a transparent part, but I won't be able to select it, but I can select everything around it as needed. And you'll also see the icon in the browser. It does show me that it's enabled, so I won't be able to select it. It also makes it transparent and easy for you to select different edges and so on and so forth as needed. And then you can simply right click on it and go back and switch on and enable the part. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the small different selection techniques that's available within the assembly environment and how you can utilize it in this within your assemblies. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.